Day 246 of the Trump administration, and tonight the president spoke to a rally in Huntsville, Alabama, saying he really felt at home.
These are Alabama values. I understand the people of Alabama. I feel like I'm from Alabama, frankly. Isn't it a little weird when a guy who lives on Fifth Avenue in the most beautiful apartment you've ever seen comes to Alabama, and Alabama loves that guy? I mean, it's crazy.
As you can gather from that bit right there, it was right out of the campaign. Donald Trump bragged about the crowd size, his electoral college victory. He called Russia a hoax. We heard about crooked Hillary. That led to chants of lock her up. The president said the wall is happening, believe me. He said the news media are fake, and the crowd booed John McCain. He even took a swing at Colin Kaepernick and said football isn't the same anymore. More on all of that, if we can get to all of that later. But the last bit, booing John McCain, that followed a portion of the president's speech where he blamed McCain for the death of repeal and replace last time and said the bill just might get through without him this time. But he assured the crowd repeal and replace will get passed.
For 7 years, I've been hearing repeal and replace. So I'm very much involved. You know, they like to say, well, Mr. Trump, President Trump, sat in the Oval Office and didn't do. I'm on the phone screaming at people all day long for weeks. They gave me a list of 10 people that were absolute no's. These are 10 Republican senators. Now, John McCain's list. John McCain was not on the list, so that was a totally unexpected thing. Terrible. Honestly, terrible. I call up the different people. Well, Mr. President, could you have dinner with my wife, myself, my family, my kids, my cousins, my uncles? And I'd like to talk to you about it. Okay. So they come over, the family, pictures all night, everything. Okay. And I'll get a vote or I won't, whatever. But brutal, brutal. You know what that is, folks, right? It's called brutality.
The hopes for this latest repeal and replace bill, Graham Cassidy, went all but dark today because John McCain came out and said he couldn't support it. He said it should be something both parties agree on, ideally. He released a statement explaining his decision, saying in part, I cannot in good conscience vote for Graham Cassidy proposal. I believe we could do better working together, Republicans and Democrats, and have not yet really tried. Nor could I support it without knowing how much it will cost, how it'll affect insurance premiums, and how many people will be helped or hurt by it. His no comes despite his close friendship, of course, with Senator Graham of South Carolina, who wrote today on Twitter, my friendship with McCain is not based on how he votes, but respect for how he's lived his life and the person he is. He went on to say he respectfully disagreed with McCain's decision. McCain joined Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky as the no votes on the record so far. NBC News whip count has 10 other Republican senators as undecided or unannounced, but most eyes are most closely fixed on two other senators who joined McCain in voting no last time, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Trump told the crowd tonight health care is what brought him to Alabama. He said when he called his friend Senator Luther Strange in the last vote, Strange told him he had his back.
So Luther did that for me. And I remembered Luther. We have to be loyal in life. You know, there's something called loyalty with these folks. And I might have made a mistake. And I'll be honest, I might have made a mistake. Because, you know, here's a story. If Luther doesn't win, they're not going to say we picked up 25 points in a very short period of time. They're going to say, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, was unable to pull his candidate across the line. It is a terrible, terrible moment for Trump. And you know what? And I told Luther, I have to say this, if his opponent wins, I'm going to be here campaigning like hell for him.
Our lead-off panel tonight to talk about all of this, whether they like it or not. Christina Bellantoni is with us, assistant managing editor for politics at the LA Times. Mike Allen is back with us, co-founder of the news organization Axios and a veteran of the New York Times, Washington Post, Politico, Time Magazine, to name a few. And here with us in New York, Steve Kornacki, who is, of course, our MSNBC national political correspondent. Steve, you and I just had the treat of watching that, sitting here together in New York, perhaps sharing a chuckle over his imitation of a newscaster voice there. I must say, perhaps there have been others, but this was the only endorsement speech I've ever heard that left room, dangled the possibility for defeat. He admitted that he might have made a mistake in endorsing Strange, as if to save face on the part of the endorser.
Yeah, it's striking how the sort of conventional political strategy, as we understand it, if you look at this speech, you'd say he didn't do this, he failed to do that, why did he do this? But I think we got to emphasize, and we got to remember, that's how he got himself elected president.
As
we
you
looked
do
at
all the
every
time.
one of these speeches he gave last year, and we said, this is not a speech, you know, my God, a presidential candidate, he forgot to do this, he forgot to thank his host, he didn't show proper respect to this person. This has an appeal with a certain segment of the electorate. And when you're talking about a runoff here in Alabama, you're talking about Alabama Republican voters. He won the primary there by a 2-to-1 margin. He beat Hillary Clinton in that state by a 2-to-1 margin. His approval rating with Republicans in Alabama right now sits at around 90%. So you are talking about the heart and soul of the Trump base. And that kind of performance tonight, I know we look at it and we say, boy, if I was writing the script for a politician and deliver an endorsement speech, it wouldn't go that way. But what he did tonight, that's worked with these voters in the past.
We want to tell the folks watching we have an entire segment on this race, this test coming up in Alabama with Steve later in this same hour. The other candidate in the race is right out of a Clint Eastwood movie, at least his name, Judge Roy Moore. You just can't make this up. And it's going to be an interesting race. We have a lot more to say about it later. Christina, I know you think tonight was something of a 2018 test. Why is that?
Sure. Well, Steve's exactly right, first of all. Trump scrambles all conventional political wisdom. But, you know, if you're one of the 8 House Republicans sitting here in California who the Democrats have to win at least 4 or 5 of these seats here next year to be able to win control of the House, you're looking at that and you're kind of wondering to yourself, you know, do I want the president's endorsement? Do I want the president to campaign for me? Do I want the president to come out with fundraising? You know, the Republicans are trying to see what the president will do for them. So it's a test of that. The electorate in Alabama, very different from the electorate, particularly here in Orange County, California, right? Where a lot of changes here, changing demographics. A lot of people are registered as independents. So the question is really what Trump can bring to the table for the Republican Party. And the idea when you're getting campaigned for by the president, you want a headline about yourself, right? The next day's newspaper is going to say, you know, candidate X was endorsed by the president for this. But instead, the headlines are all about the things that we're talking about, North Korea, Russia, the healthcare vote. That's not always great for the candidate. Might work for Donald Trump, but doesn't necessarily work for the person on the ballot.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.